Well, I think much depends on what you mean by bad authority. There's everyday, typical, selfish uses of authority that can be lived with. But then I also want to be very sensitive to those kinds of abuses of such a nature that they can't be lived with, right? Let's start in that first category. The passage that comes to mind is 1 Peter 3, wives, be subject to your own husbands, so that even if some do not obey the word, okay, he's not obeying the word, he's using his authority poorly in some form or fashion, they may be won without a word by the conduct of their wives when they see your respectful and pure conduct. And let me just say, this is something commanded not just of wives, but I would say any Christian, right, under a authority in which the word is not being obeyed, whether you're at the workplace or government or whatever the case is. As Christians, generally, and as wives specifically in the context of marriage, yet we're to assume that the authorities that God has placed over us aren't perfect. Now, God's authorization is perfect, but what those authorities do aren't perfect, and they aren't going to obey. And we are called to forbear and be patient and forgive, and yet continue to seek to compel the gospel through our trust in Christ, our trust in God, even as we continue to serve those God has called us to serve. I remember a boss I had once, a terrible boss. Right, this was at a magazine. I was a managing editor at a magazine early in my career, and he was a terrible boss, and he attacked me verbally and otherwise. And as I look back on that experience, what are my regrets? Ironically, one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't do awesome work for him. You know why that's my regret? Because I didn't progress in journalism? Well, no, I left journalism, right? Because I wish my awesome work I did B-level work. I wish my A-level work would have continued to testify against him, as it were. Hey, here's this Christian who's listening to me and following and doing awesome work, even though at some level I know I'm a terrible boss, right? I wish that had been my motive. And so I think there's a sense in which Peter is getting at that same idea. Even when your husbands do not obey the word, present the gospel to them in a way with your life. Let your adornment, he says, come from the beauty of your lives. And wives with selfish, sinful husbands, I want that to be your goal. Now, of course, I'm not telling you not to correct him and speak to him about it. All of that, absolutely. And learn how to do that well. Learn how to give the wisdom to your husband that he needs. He needs a helper. He needs you to talk to him about those things he may or may not, or he may be doing wrong. Okay, all of that's in that sort of first bucket of sins that can be lived with, as it were. I'd also want to involve if you need to talk to the elders in your church. I think that'd be a good thing to do, right? Talk to other sisters in your life, right? Who can give you wisdom and how to do it. And also, and this kind of brings us to the second bucket, help you discern if some of those things that are happening, you need to separate. You're actually endangering yourself. There is abuse going on here. Talk to the sisters in your life, talk to your pastors, and let them help you see maybe you're the frog in the kettle, right? And those things that you're just sort of taking for granted as normal aren't normal, and you actually need to flee. You need to get out. That's another whole complex of issues that I can't really tackle right here. But the bottom line is seek to love your husband, whether in ongoing submission or on occasion when required, even pulling out and fleeing, so that he can't continue to sin against you.